in this work it's called Volkstaal, and what you've got here is you've got three women that appear to be dancing in a circle, almost playing a child's game, a game like Ringy Ringy Rosies or something like that, and they're going round and round, and as they're going around they're chanting a song, and the song goes something like I am not a donkey, and it goes over and over again, and they sing I am not a donkey, I am not a donkey, I am not. And these words seem to weave a pattern around them, and one can see that they sort of move beyond the child's game at this point, and it becomes almost maybe like a witch's dance or something like that. Three women in the work are obviously were women, and I say obviously one tends to identify the woman by the headdress that they're wearing, and in this case they're wearing these kappies typical of the Boer period, the early Afrikaans period in South Africa, particularly during the Volkstaal period. They wore these kappies to protect their faces. One thing quite interesting about the kappies that I quite enjoy, and I use this a lot in my work, is at a certain angle they tend to look like halos, which I find quite interesting, and at another angle they tend to look like bullets or the barrel of a gun, and I think that's quite important. No, it's not only the kappies that look like some kind of weapons, you should know that, but it's also the way that I've tried to use their bodies, and obviously their bodies are stylized and they're not taken specifically from one individual body, and the body has been generalized, simplified into some kind of prehistoric fecund kind of woman. At the same time, I wanted their bodies to also look like weapons, particularly their sexual organs and their fecundity. And so basically what you have is these very sort of protruding stomachs. It looks as if the women are pregnant, and you can see that. As well as the way they're dancing in the circular motion. It's meant to create this unity and this bond between the various individuals. Although individualism, each one is not really portrayed as a particular person. Their personality is quite hidden, and even in the central one, the face has just become a blur of the woman as she moves around to show the movement as she moves around the circle. What I've done here is I've removed the colour totally from the work in a way, reduced it just to gold and black, and I've already found the beauty of working with gold. What I really enjoy is that the colours never the same from any single viewpoint. As you move, the colour seems to move with you and changes. So it becomes a very pale, light gold to dark gold, to a very dark, dull colour to a shiny colour to reflect the surface, and so as you move the work sparkles and tends to come to life. So I find that the use of gold is quite significant in this work. I've always been using gold to a certain extent, but now what I've been trying to focus on is different types of golds and working just purely with those golds. So I'm using gold dust, gold leaf, gold, although not too much gold leaf, gold spray paint, gold acrylic, gold oil, and this is worked with black. And so what I'm working with basically is just tones. So the whole painting becomes largely tone. Yes, that's right. Basically gold is such a significant importance to this country and basically to Johannesburg, and basically that's where a lot of the wealth from the country comes, obviously from other minerals as well, such as diamonds, etc. But gold is central particularly to Johannesburg and the heart of the country. Without gold, I think the country would really be struggling economically. And basically that is what the war has all been about, particularly between the British and the Boers. In trying to suppress them, the Boers, it was basically trying to get as much wealth out of the country and dominance over the country as they could in their colonizing efforts. And so using gold has become symbolical as well for me. And although it's a beautiful medium to work in, it's also very symbolical of what's happened and going on in South Africa with its basic the mineral rights and wealth of it. Yeah. No, the title here, the title is quite important. Volkstaal, which in direct translation could mean basically people's language, folk, people, taal is Afrikaans for language. And so basically one understands right from the beginning, looking at the title, that this work is about the people and their culture, and how culture influences the way that how language influences the way that the culture is formed and their symbolism. Yes, well, this relates directly to me because obviously having grown up in South Africa and been developing, reaching my maturity during apartheid, this was a culture that was definitely dominant and was suppressing the other cultures, since now that the Afrikaans culture was dominant. They were now elected as part of the government, and Afrikaans was promoting itself. And this is a painting about how basically that change took place. And so we see the growth and the struggle of the language in the early parts of South Africa, South Africa's history, particularly the European history, which is obviously something that is going to prevail over the next couple of works. I'm working on another 2 more works with a similar kind of concept of the taal, working with the language and the history of Afrikaans and the history of language. Because I'm not really interested so much in the specifics of Afrikaans, but rather in the history of language as such, and how language creates this sort of unity in a culture and also disunity in large and different cultures.